What really hurt the most was watching her get ready for her night out. After she put on the kind of lingerie I hadn't seen in years, I watched as she spent an eternity on her makeup, styling her hair with a focus usually reserved for a product launch. Then, my wife, Chloe, slipped on a stunning, form-fitting dress I'd never seen before. The high heels that followed completed an ensemble that was utterly unfamiliar to me. I felt betrayal, jealousy, and a cold, calculating anger rise deep within me. She was doing all of this for Julian Vale, her boss, not for me. She was engineering herself to be desirable, a perfectly designed product for another man, while I was busting my ass to provide the infrastructure for our perfect life and family. It was incomprehensible. Our intimate life was, I thought, a well-oiled machine. Chloe was always attentive, never holding back. She always made me feel like the center of her universe, so there was no logical reason not to trust her. After 20 years of marriage, I knew her mechanics, or so I believed. I never thought she was capable of a critical system failure like this. The first anomaly appeared a month ago at her company's annual awards dinner. Her boss, Julian Vale, managing partner of a venture capital fund that invested in tech startups, paid far more attention to Chloe than was professionally appropriate. I caught the smirk he shot me after dancing with my wife. A small, arrogant flicker of ownership. A bad data point. My internal systems flagged it as a potential threat, and the feeling only intensified the next day when I mentioned it to Chloe. The way she defended him, trying to reframe my observation as an overreaction, was a confirmation of the anomaly. Suddenly, all the late-night brainstorming sessions and investor lunches registered as red flags that demanded immediate analysis. The more I processed the data, the more furious I became. Chloe was Julian's personal assistant. He was one of those guys who radiated success, expensive cars, sharp suits, a lifestyle built on funding other people's dreams while crushing others. He'd traded his wife of 20 years for a younger, sexier model. Julian enjoyed making jokes at others' expense, and I vividly remembered him mocking my work at a fundraiser. You see, I'm an industrial designer. I own a small but successful firm where we design and build high-tech prototypes. We don't sell nuts and bolts. We sell innovation. It's not a glamorous job compared to his world of 9-figure funding rounds, but my work earns me over $200,000 a year. It provided a damn good life for our family. I gave Chloe everything she wanted, paid for our daughter Sarah's college education. We lived in a beautiful home in a great community. I wasn't a venture capital power broker like Julian, but we were happy. At least, that's the system I thought we were operating in. The night he mocked my work was a critical failure. "So, David," he'd said, a smug grin on his face. "Still tinkering with your little gadgets? Must be fun playing with 3D printers all day." When I saw Chloe laugh along with him, my blood boiled. Later, when I confronted her, she brushed it off. "Oh, baby, he's just kidding. He thinks what you do is adorable." Adorable. That word was a piece of malware she'd let him install. I wasn't a fool. I understood the attraction to Julian. He was the alpha, the man who wrote checks that could change the world. Chloe was his closest ally, his trusted right hand. But men like Julian want it all, and claiming someone else's wife was just another asset acquisition for his portfolio. Over the next week, I decided to stop guessing and start gathering data. My intuition was flagging a critical error, and I needed proof. I didn't order off-the-shelf spy gear. I built my own. That's what I do. At my workshop, I designed and fabricated a series of custom surveillance devices, prototypes so discreet they would be invisible to the untrained eye. The first was a miniature 8 kelvins video camera, no bigger than a shirt button, which I integrated into the smoke detector on our bedroom ceiling. I built 2 more, embedding them in a digital clock and a USB wall charger, placing them at different angles to capture a full schematic of the room. The rest went into the master bathroom and living room. All devices streamed wirelessly to a dedicated encrypted server I set up in the attic, accessible only by a custom app on my phone. The audio devices were my pride. One was a pen I designed with a high-fidelity microphone, which I left on the kitchen counter. The other I embedded into a spare key fob for her car. I even designed a tiny acoustic sensor, disguised as a designer purse charm, which I attached to her favorite handbag. With this sensor network, I could capture at least 90% of her conversations and all activity within the house. I had a bad feeling about the next week, as I was scheduled for a 2-night business trip. As always, Chloe was loving, performing her role perfectly. The night before I left, our lovemaking was passionate, almost desperate. "I love you so much," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "You are amazing, and I will love you forever." It was a flawless performance, so convincing that I almost scrubbed the entire surveillance project. I almost believed I was just being paranoid. Luckily, I left the system running. I set out on my 3-hour drive, my mind replaying the last 6 months. Other than Julian's condescension, nothing seemed out of place. A smile touched my face. Maybe I was just overthinking. When I finally arrived at my hotel, I checked into my room, opened my laptop, and clicked on the secure link to my attic server. I needed to test the remote access protocol. I fast-forwarded through the last 3 hours of footage, knowing there wouldn't be much to see. And then, I saw her. I scanned the video feeds at 3x speed until I saw movement in the bedroom. Then I returned the stream to normal speed, a part of me still hoping to see my beautiful, sexy wife just relaxing, proving my paranoia wrong. What I got instead was a system-wide critical failure notification delivered via a phone call she made an hour after I left. My custom-designed camera in the smoke detector captured the audio with perfect clarity. I could only hear her side of the conversation, but it was more than enough data. "Hello, honey," she cooed, lying on our bed. "He's gone. I'm all alone." A pause. "Yes, 2 full nights this time. When can you come over?" Another pause, followed by a light, dismissive laugh. "Oh, she won't ask. Don't worry." Her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "Oh my God, that's great. Can you spend the night? I really want to wake up next to you." Her final words were a payload of pure poison. "Oh yes, of course. I'm all yours, baby." "Okay. See you soon. I love you." I sat there in the sterile silence of my hotel room, the system frozen. The emotional subroutines in my brain crashed. We had just made the most passionate love. She had come apart in my arms, telling me she loved me, that I was her world. Now, barely an hour later, she was inviting him, Julian, to spend the night in our bed. Who was this woman? How could her programming be so flawlessly deceptive? How could she run 2 operating systems, loving wife and treacherous adulteress simultaneously without a single glitch? For the next hour, I watched the live feed as my loving wife prepared for her lover. It was an exercise in excruciatingly painful product design. The way she showered, the expensive lingerie she put on, the high heels, the meticulous 30-minute process of applying makeup and styling her hair. It was an incredibly painful and erotic sight. I had always known she was a sexual being, but this was a different product line. This was a premium, export-quality version of herself, and it was never meant for the domestic market. It was designed exclusively for Julian Vale. Anger and jealousy, hot and corrosive like battery acid, raged through my veins. My last desperate hope that this was all just a misunderstanding was answered a few minutes later when the living room camera picked up the doorbell. I watched in real time as Julian Vale walked into my house, the house I designed, the house I paid for, and kissed Chloe deeply. I zoomed in with the camera, capturing the moment in full 8 Kelvin's resolution, The crisp detail of his hand on her back, her fingers in his hair. The image was so clear, it made me physically sick. "Wow, baby, you look amazing in that dress," he said, his voice captured by the audio sensor in the pen on the kitchen counter. "I can't wait to rip it off your sexy body." The exchange made me angry, but that anger turned to a deep structural pain when she took his hand and led him into our bedroom. The pain intensified as I watched her undress him, his stupid, arrogant smile never leaving his face. He was a big man, fit, the kind of guy who looked like he was built in a lab to be a CEO. I watched with a toxic cocktail of jealousy, rage, and a detached designer's appreciation for his well-maintained physique. After the second wave of nausea subsided, I watched them have sex for the next hour. My marriage was over. I knew that, but their conversation afterwards was what truly demolished me. "So, your husband's gone for a few nights," Julian said, his voice smug as they lay in each other's arms. "You're all mine for the next 2 days." "I'm so happy you can stay the night, baby," Chloe replied. "I love being with you, Julian." "Yes," she purred. "I will love taking you over and over again, all night long, while the little gadget maker works his ass off." What an idiot. "Be good, Julian," she said then, a line that would haunt me. "I love him, you know. He's a good person." "Then why are you here with me?" he asked. "Because you're the sexiest man I know," she whispered. "And I love our sex. But we're both married. We should just enjoy this." His reply was the final fatal blow. "It's more than sex for me, Chloe. The way you make me feel. My wife doesn't give me this. You give me more." That part shattered me. The love, the special connection that was supposed to be my proprietary technology, a unique feature of our relationship. Now I realized she was open source, sharing her love with another man. I continued to listen, a glutton for punishment. "Does your husband satisfy you as much as I do?" he asked. "He's a wonderful lover," she said, and the words were like a knife twisting. "But no, he's not like you. You do things to me. You understand a woman's needs." I shut down the computer. I couldn't watch anymore. I had all the data I needed. The betrayal wasn't a bug. It was a feature of her design. After hours of staring at the hotel ceiling, fighting my own anger, I realized that the future wasn't about repair. It was about a controlled demolition. When I returned home, she played her part perfectly. Hugs, kisses, the loving wife welcoming her husband home. But instead of the love I once felt, all I felt was a cold, clinical disgust. I played my role too, an actor in a play I now knew was a tragedy. I spent the evening collecting all the recordings, uploading them to my encrypted cloud server, creating multiple off-site backups, and then wiping the local drives. Over the next 2 weeks, I initiated a new protocol: strategic occupation. I made sure every second she spent at home was with me. I kept her busy. No opportunities for late-night calls, no unexplained absences. She even asked, with a hint of frustration, when my next business trip was. They were getting impatient. I confirmed it one morning, listening to the audio from the key fob in her car. "When is your husband leaving town again?" It was Julian's voice. "I'm not sure," she'd replied. "But I'll find out. It has to be soon, baby." Knowing this, I designed the perfect trap. That evening she asked, "Darling, when is your next trip?" I forced a smile, a perfect simulation of humor. "Honey, are you trying to get rid of me? Got a secret lover who comes over when I'm gone?" She didn't miss a beat. "Don't be silly. I love it when you're home." The performance was flawless. "But seriously, do you have to travel soon?" "Yes, actually," I said. "A one-night trip, next Tuesday. I'll be back sometime Wednesday." "Oh, I hate it when you leave," she said, her voice a perfect blend of regret and affection. She came over, hugged me, and kissed me deeply. It was a masterclass in deception. As I held her, all I could think was that this same love, this same performance, was being staged for another man. The rage was immense, but I held my composure. The plan was in motion. On Tuesday, I packed my bag. We had one last session of lovemaking. It felt like a final system diagnostic before a complete shutdown. She kissed me goodbye, and I looked into her eyes, searching for any flicker of truth. I thought I saw something, sadness maybe. Or was it just relief? By Tuesday night, I would have my answer. It was time to execute the plan. I looked at her one last time, and in her eyes, I saw not sadness, but a flicker of excitement. She was looking forward to this. Instead of driving out of town, I returned to my office. My car remained parked in its designated spot, a perfect, verifiable alibi. I went up to my desk, settled in for some late-night work, and waited. The few employees still there barely registered my presence. At approximately 7:30 p.m., the motion sensor on my home server pinged my phone. I opened the secure app and watched the live feed as Julian Vale entered my house and kissed my soon-to-be ex-wife. It was showtime. I didn't need an electric bike or a shotgun. My weapons were far more sophisticated. My entire home was a network of smart devices I had designed and installed myself, all connected to a central server that I controlled remotely. The thermostats, the lights, the locks, the TVs, the sound system, every component was a node in my web. She thought of it as our smart home. I thought of it as my personal instrument. And tonight, I was going to conduct a symphony of terror. I watched them on the live feed, a bottle of expensive whiskey on my desk, my fingers poised over my keyboard. I waited, letting them get comfortable, letting them move from the living room to the bedroom. I watched them undress. I watched them climb into my bed. I gave them just enough time to feel secure, to lose themselves in their betrayal. And then, at the precise moment of their intimacy, I initiated the intrusion protocol. The first command was simple: lockdown, execute. Instantly, every smart lock on every door and window in the house engaged with a series of loud, metallic clicks. They were trapped. The second command: sensory overload, execute. The bedroom lights, which had been dimmed to a romantic glow, began to flash violently, strobing at a disorienting frequency. Simultaneously, every television in the house, the one in the bedroom, the living room, the kitchen, blasted on at maximum volume. But they weren't showing a cable channel. They were showing a live feed of the bedroom camera, delayed by 5 seconds. They were forced to watch themselves, naked and panicking, in a dizzying, repeating loop. The Sonos sound system, which a moment before had been playing soft music, began broadcasting their own whispered conversations from earlier, amplified to a deafening roar. I watched their reactions on the main feed. It was pure primal chaos. Julian, a man used to being in complete control, scrambled off the bed, his naked body slick with sweat, his face a mask of terror. Chloe screamed, curling into a ball, trying to cover herself, as the strobing lights illuminated her shame and the sound of her own treacherous words echoed around her. Julian fumbled for the light switch, but it was useless. The system was under my control, not his. He ran to the bedroom door, yanking on the handle, but it wouldn't budge. He was a rat in a cage I had designed. Then, I executed the final phase of the protocol. A single anonymous text message was sent to Julian's phone. It read, "I see everything. You have 5 minutes to get out before this live stream is sent to your wife, your partners at the venture fund, and every single one of your LinkedIn contacts. Your choice." The panic escalated to a new level. He looked at his phone, then at the camera in the smoke detector, his eyes wide with the horror of a man who has just realized he is no longer the predator, but the prey. He completely forgot about Chloe, his only thought being his own survival. He was a powerful man whose entire world was built on a carefully curated image, and I was threatening to burn it to the ground with a single click. Chloe was a hysterical, sobbing mess on the bed, but he ignored her. He was a cornered animal. For 4 agonizing minutes, I let them marinate in their terror. I let him pull on every locked door, let him realize the absolute futility of his situation. Then, with 1 minute to spare, I sent a single command: unlock, back, door. A single quiet click echoed from the back of the house. Julian heard it. Without a second thought, he bolted from the bedroom, naked and terrified, leaving his expensive suit, his wallet, and his dignity crumpled on my bedroom floor. I watched on the camera as he fled out the back door and disappeared into the night. The house fell silent, except for Chloe's broken sobs. The lights returned to normal. The TVs went dark. The lockdown was over. I sat back in my chair, took a slow sip of my whiskey, and watched the woman who had broken my world fall to pieces in the aftermath of the clean, surgical demolition I had just performed. I hadn't laid a hand on either of them. I didn't need to. I hadn't broken any laws. My car never left the office parking lot, and my alibi was ironclad. I had simply used the tools of my trade to deconstruct their affair with the cold, brutal precision of a wrecking ball. The fear I had instilled in them tonight would last a lifetime. And the real revenge, the long-term, strategic part of the plan, had only just begun. I remained at my desk until 9:30 p.m., then casually said goodbye to the few IT guys still working late. As far as anyone knew, my car never left the parking lot. I had spent the entire evening at my desk. If they ever tried to accuse me of anything, it would be their word. The word of 2 panicked, humiliated adulterers against my perfect, verifiable alibi. There was no evidence, no crime scene, just a corrupted system that I had professionally purged. The next day, I took a personal day. I spent the morning remotely decommissioning my surveillance network. I wiped the servers, deleted the encrypted cloud backups, and remotely disabled the devices themselves. Any remaining evidence of what I knew and how I knew it was now gone. The project was complete. Chloe came home around 6 p.m. that evening. I was in the living room, a glass of good whiskey in my hand, calmly reviewing a new product schematic on my tablet. She looked broken, her usual confident posture replaced by a fragile uncertainty. For a brief second, I almost felt sorry for her. She sat on the couch across from me, the silence stretching between us. With tears in her eyes, she finally broke. "David," she began, her voice trembling. I know what you think, but you need to know, I wasn't in love with him." I didn't look up from my tablet. "I know what it looked like," she continued, her words tumbling out in a rehearsed rush. "What I said, it must have hurt you. But you know me. After we're intimate, I need connection." Those words, in my heart, I was saying them to you, baby. Whenever you were gone, I hated being alone. And Julian, he kept me company. Yes, it got sexual, but it was just sex. You have to believe me. I finally looked up, my expression a blank mask of professional detachment. The sheer audacity of her excuse, the flawed logic of her damage control was almost impressive. "Chloe," I said, my voice calm and even, "I have reviewed your explanation. Your assertion that the words of love you spoke to another man were intended for me is illogical. The data does not support this conclusion. The project of our marriage is over. 20 wonderful years," I continued, "rendered obsolete by a design flaw you chose not to report. We will both have to live with the consequences of your actions for the rest of our lives. Thank you for the pain and suffering. I will be sure to file it away for future reference." The sarcasm was cold, precise. "What do we do now?" she asked, tears streaming down her face. "There is no we," I stated. "The partnership is dissolved. I will never understand the design choices you made or why. There is no possibility of forgiveness for this level of systemic failure. However, I will keep my promise. Our daughter Sarah and your parents will never know the full extent of this from me. I will let you design your own narrative for the divorce. But I warn you," I said, my eyes locking with hers, "do not make me the villain in your story. If you do, it will end badly. Because I will release every single file. I will make sure everyone knows that you are not a misunderstood victim, but a cheating adulteress. I'm putting the house on the market," I continued. "In the meantime, you need to find a new place to live. You compromise the structural integrity of this home. You need to move out. This is not a request. It is a directive. Let my lawyer know where to send the divorce papers. Sign them, and do not resist. Otherwise, the process will become very painful for both you and your associate." Crying into her hands, she tried to speak. "He's not my boyfriend. I don't love him. Can't we fix this? I'll do anything to keep us together. I never wanted to lose you. Please don't leave me." I stood up, placing my tablet on the coffee table. "Chloe, if this had only been about sex, a simple hardware malfunction, perhaps it could have been repaired. Counseling, separation, a system reboot. But what ended my love for you was the software, the lies, the manipulation, the words you said to him, claiming a connection that was supposed to be exclusively ours. That corrupted the core programming. I will never forget or forgive your betrayal. Once the divorce is final, you will be permanently removed from my life." After several more hours of her begging and pleading, she finally left the next morning to stay with her parents. Over the next week, her family called, begging me to reconsider. I was told she loved me, that she was sorry, that we should try counseling. I stopped answering their calls. I changed my phone number. I never spoke to any of them again. The loss was immense. Every second, a painful reminder of the beautiful structure that had been destroyed. But the memory of her betrayal, of her giving away the proprietary design of our love to another man, was a flaw I could never build around. I could never come to terms with the betrayal. In the aftermath, Chloe's world was systematically deconstructed. She was a 42-year-old single woman living in a small one-bedroom apartment, the comfortable life I had designed for her now just a memory. Her family, having seen the evidence, blamed her for the failed marriage. She was alone. Julian, more interested in saving his own crumbling marriage, treated her poorly at work. He blamed her for the psychological trauma and the near miss with public humiliation. He had her transferred to a dead-end administrative role with the same pay but no prestige and no future. The word got around the office, and she was treated like a pariah. With a job she hated, no prospects, no friends, and a family who blamed her for everything, she sank into a deep depression. Stella, Julian's wife, made his life a living hell. She didn't leave him. She repurposed him. He was forced into a guest room. His infidelity, a debt he would pay for indefinitely. She began dating younger men, using his money to fund her new life while keeping him around as a financial utility. He was a walking ATM, a hollowed-out executive who would never again have the love or respect he craved. His life was no longer a bold design. It was a poorly managed renovation project with no end in sight. Months passed. My life found a new, quieter rhythm. The divorce was finalized. I focused on my work, designing prototypes, building my business. The pain was still there, a low-frequency hum beneath the surface, but it no longer caused system crashes. Then came the meeting I had been waiting for. I didn't call Julian. I called his top competitor, a smaller, hungrier startup with a brilliant but underfunded new product. I had studied their designs for weeks. Their product was a high-risk, high-reward gamble, exactly the kind of thing Julian's venture capital firm would never touch. I arranged a meeting with Julian at a neutral location, a sterile, glass-walled conference room in a downtown hotel. He walked in, his usual arrogance replaced by a wary tension. He still didn't know how I had orchestrated the smart home nightmare, and that fear was my greatest leverage. "Sit down, Julian," I said, my voice calm. "What do you want, David?" he sneered. "Come to gloat?" "No," I said, sliding a sleek black portfolio across the table. "I've come to present you with an investment opportunity." He looked at me, confused. He opened the portfolio. Inside was a detailed prospectus for his competitor's new product, complete with market analysis, technical specifications, and my own design improvements. "What is this?" he asked. "You want me to fund my rival?" "You're not going to fund them," I said. "You're going to personally acquire a majority stake in their project. You will use your own money, not the firm's, to the tune of $1 million. You will shepherd this product to market, giving them the full benefit of your expertise and network." He laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. "You're insane. Why would I ever do that?" I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a quiet, dangerous tone. "Because if you don't, I will release the full, unedited 8 Kelvins video of your performance in my bedroom. I still have it, Julian, on a secure, decentralized server with a dead man switch. If anything happens to me, it gets released automatically. To your wife, to your partners, to the board of every company you've ever invested in." His face went pale. The laughter died. "This isn't blackmail for money," I continued. "I don't want your money. This is about product testing. You prided yourself on being a great investor, a man who could spot a winner. You looked at my life, my marriage, and you decided to make a hostile takeover. You thought my wife was an undervalued asset you could acquire. You were wrong. And now, you're going to pay for your bad investment. This project you're going to fund," I said, a small smile touching my lips. "It's going to fail. It's a brilliant design, but the market isn't ready for it. It will fail spectacularly, and it will take your $1 million and a significant chunk of your reputation with it. You'll be known as the venture capitalist who got played, who backed the wrong horse. You won't be paying me for what you did. You'll be paying the market." He stared at the portfolio, then at me, the gears turning in his head. He knew I had him. He knew I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't an angry husband anymore. I was a designer, presenting a flawless, inescapable system. The money was transferred. The deal was made. Over the next year, I watched from a distance as Julian poured his time and money into a project he knew was doomed. He lost the $1 million, and the public failure damaged his credibility in the investment community. Chloe never remarried. She lived a quiet life, forever haunted by the choices she made. She died before her 50th birthday, a broken, sad woman. Her death saddened me, but it also brought a final, quiet closure. I continued to build my business, designing products that made people's lives better. Eventually, I married again, a wonderful woman who valued honesty and partnership above all else. But I never forgot the lesson Julian and Chloe taught me. The world is full of flawed designs and people who will exploit them. A good designer doesn't just build things, he anticipates failure. And he always, always has a retribution protocol ready to launch. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one.